Hey there my peeps, I'm here with the prediction game video for the Elimination Chamber match itself. Match you're gonna see this Sunday at the Elimination Chamber event. It's actually the only Elimination Chamber match I'm aware of, or that has been announced. I would have hoped that the 6-man tag team match would be inside the chamber as well, but it looks like it's just gonna be a regular 6-man tag team match. Anyways, this matchup, it's probably the most unpredictable Elimination Chamber match ever, that I've seen at least. And I think I've seen every single Elimination Chamber match except for maybe one or something. Or I might have seen all of them. I'm not sure. Might have missed one though. Who knows? Anyways, yeah, when you look at this Elimination Chamber match, at least in my view, I see 4 of the guys in this matchup as potential winners, guys that could win this matchup. This is really unpredictable. I'll tell you right away, I don't think Daniel Bryan or Kane are gonna win this match. I can see them teaming up in the matchup, helping each other out for a little while, but then eventually one of them screws up or accidentally hits the other, something like that, and costs, the other guy his shot, or, gets him pinned or something. I don't think Daniel Bryan or Kane are going to be in the world title picture come WrestleMania time. I think actually they're either going to have a one-on-one match between each other, since they've been, arguing lately and stuff like that, or they're going to have a tag team match where they defend the tag team titles against another team. I'm thinking it's more likely we're going to see Daniel Bryan and Kane at WrestleMania one-on-one, tag team champion versus tag team champion. So that's why I'm pretty much just ruling out victory, a Kane victory or a Daniel Bryan victory. Although I would enjoy seeing Daniel Bryan win this matchup and fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. I would actually like to see a triple threat match where you have the champion, so let's say Del Rio's the champion, Del Rio versus both the tag team champions, so Del Rio versus Daniel Bryan versus Kane. I think that'd be a pretty entertaining matchup to see, but the chances of that happening, very unlikely. So that leaves us with 4 other superstars, and that is Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, Chris Jericho, and Randy Orton. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over every single superstar, well, at least those 4 superstars, and tell you why I think they could win the matchup, and at the same time tell you why I think, some reasons why I think they might not win the matchup. So you know what, I'm gonna start off with Randy freaking Orton. Randy Orton. So that Randy, lately he's been losing a lot of matches. He's a main event superstar, but Mark Henry coming back. Well, I don't want to talk too much about Mark Henry here, but when it comes to Randy, he hasn't been doing too well lately. He's definitely not, in terms of victories, definitely not on that John Cena level at that moment. He's not, winning too many matches. And he hasn't been in the world title picture for a while. He hasn't had the world title match in a long time. Last world title match I remember Randy having is against Mark Henry in his rematch at, I think Hell in a Cell? Pretty sure it was Hell in a Cell. So yeah, hasn't been doing too good. And then on SmackDown last week, he lost clean to Mark Henry, which he's done in the past. He's lost clean to Mark Henry in the past when he didn't get suspended, before he got suspended when he was a world champion. So it might not mean that much that he lost to Mark Henry, because he's lost to Mark Henry in the past as well. But these recent losses for Randy, they might be a way, like a swerve, have Randy lose a couple matches. Then people are thinking, okay, Randy's been losing all these matches. I don't think he's going to win this big match, the Elimination Chamber match, and move on to face the world champion. So Randy winning this would be, not for everybody, but in some cases, kind of a surprise, just because, he's been losing so many matches. But at the same time, a lot of times when somebody doesn't have the momentum leading up to the pay-per-view, they end up winning. And I'd say right now, Randy definitely doesn't have the momentum, so, maybe he does win the Elimination Chamber match this Sunday. And keep in mind, this is Randy Orton, he's a main event star, former world champion, former WWE champion as well, former Royal Rumble winner, so you never know when they're gonna put him back in that title scene and give him a title match. Could happen after the Elimination Chamber if he wins the Elimination Chamber. So I could see Randy as a possibility, but I will say this, out of these 4 possible winners, I think Randy's the least likely to win. But I do think he does stand a chance at winning. But also, a reason why I think Randy is, in my opinion, out of those 4 superstars, Swagger, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, and who else? Jericho? Yeah. Out of those 4 guys, why he's the least likely to win, in my opinion, is I think he's gonna have a match against Sheamus at WrestleMania. And with Sheamus right now being in that 6-man tag team match, that means Sheamus is not gonna be the world champion come time for WrestleMania. So Randy versus Sheamus for the world title, probably not gonna happen. But they could have it as a non-title match, so for that to happen, Randy would have to, lose this matchup. Anyways, let's move on to Jack Swagger here, the guy I initially predicted. Jack Swagger, like I said in my Del Rio vs. Swagger video, if you would have told me like a month back that you think Jack Swagger, might face the world champion at WrestleMania, I would have thought you were trolling. But after Monday Night Raw, I could definitely see Jack Swagger winning the Elimination Chamber and, facing Del Rio for that world title. Actually, if you would have told me maybe like 2 weeks ago, or the week that Jack Swagger returned, that he'd be, that he could win the Elimination Chamber and fight for the world title, I'd still think you were trolling. Because at that point, Zeb Coulter didn't debut as Jack Swagger's manager. But now, with Zeb Coulter as his manager and the new gimmick, where he's talking about people, immigrants and stuff like that, people in his country, in America that he can't understand and all of this, it seems like the perfect gimmick for Swagger versus Del Rio. Now, granted, they could have Swagger versus Del Rio at another time, after WrestleMania. But, I mean, right now the timing is like perfect. You have Swagger returning. You also have the new manager, right before the Elimination Chamber, where Swagger's competing for that #1 contendership. So, yeah, that's pretty much the only reason why I think Swagger's gonna win. But it's also a pretty big reason, in my opinion, why Swagger could indeed win the Elimination Chamber matchup. Now, if I talk about reasons why I think Swagger might not win, it might just be too soon. I mean, because before returning, Swagger was really, it wasn't really the best time of his career. He was losing a lot of matches to a lot of mid-carders. He lost to Dolph Ziggler, to Ryback, and he lost to, did he lose the championship to Santino? I think he did. Yeah, he lost the championship, the United States Championship, to Santino. And things weren't really going well for Jack Swagger. Things were going downhill, which is why, at least storyline-wise, he told AJ, who was the GM at that time, that he was going to take some extended time off. And now he returns, and, he just returned, like, what, 2 weeks ago. So, it might just be too soon for Jack Swagger to win. And that's the reason why I just recently changed my mind. I was like, you know what? Swagger versus Del Rio, it doesn't necessarily need to happen at WrestleMania. It doesn't necessarily need to happen for the world title. And like I said, it's kind of too soon for somebody that wasn't doing too well before to just come back and right away be put in that world title picture, especially at WrestleMania. If it was something like, one of the smaller pay-per-views, I could definitely see it happening. And I still, see a possibility of this happening, Swagger versus Del Rio for the world title. But then, I look at, like, Mark Henry and Chris Jericho, and right now, at this point in time, I think they have a bigger chance of winning this matchup. So let's move on to Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, I think he has a really good chance at winning this. But that's if Del Rio loses the world title to Dolph Ziggler. If he doesn't lose the world title to Dolph Ziggler, so Dolph Ziggler doesn't cash in the briefcase at the Elimination Chamber, I don't think Chris Jericho will, win the Elimination Chamber matchup and go on to face for the world title. Now, if Dolph Ziggler does indeed cash in on Del Rio at the Elimination Chamber and Chris Jericho wins the Elimination Chamber matchup, I don't think it's going to be Dolph Ziggler versus Chris Jericho one-on-one, because you got to keep in mind Del Rio, and I find people don't keep this in mind or forget about this. Del Rio being the former champion, if Dolph Ziggler does cash in, he's entitled to a rematch clause. So pretty sure Del Rio would invoke that rematch at WrestleMania, so that would make for a triple threat match between Del Rio, Dolph Ziggler, and Chris Jericho, where Dolph Ziggler is the defending world champion. And one of the reasons why I think Chris Jericho might not win this is it seems like Chris Jericho was like a last-minute decision. By the way, I didn't notice at all that Rey Mysterio got taken out of the Elimination Chamber matchup until, like, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. So apparently, from what I read, Chris Jericho was put in to replace Rey Mysterio because Rey Mysterio got taken out of the Elimination Chamber matchup. So that's one reason why I think maybe Chris Jericho might not win the match. And then when we move on to Mark Henry, well, he's been freaking unstoppable, since returning. And before returning, he wasn't doing too bad at all, He had a good world title run. And now since returning, he's attacked Rey Mysterio, Sin Cara, Daniel Bryan. He beat the Great Khali, took out Great Khali, Hornswoggle as well. And freaking beat Randy Orton clean on SmackDown. So Mark Henry's been freaking unstoppable. And I think winning the Elimination Chamber matchup for Mark Henry would freaking, skyrocket that momentum or domination to like the max, And it'd make for a great, like, unstoppable monster that took out all these people after returning and won the Elimination Chamber matchup, taking out 5 other top superstars. And they could make Del Rio, this extreme underdog against Mark Henry. So that way, if he beats Mark Henry at WrestleMania, it would be a huge victory for Del Rio and make him even more over. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wish I could have talked more about the Elimination Chamber and reasons, but I'm running out of time. If you did enjoy the video, click that like button. I'd really appreciate it. With that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.